Hi friends, welcome back to another video. I wanted to talk today about my Lumix S5 minimal camera setup with vintage lenses. I get a lot of questions about how I use the adapters, what lenses I use, my camera settings, and I'm not going to dive so much into the settings and color grading today, but I want to talk about kind of how I use the S5 as a simple travel camera setup. So I still think the S5, the original one, is one of the best values for kind of a simple cinema camera style camera kit today, especially with a vintage lens or two. You can buy this entire kit that I'm going to talk about for about $2,000 US, even with a laptop. So the original S5, I think you can get them for like $800 or so used now US. If you treat it like a cinema camera, it kind of becomes one, honestly. The image is maybe a small step behind something like the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, but just by a really narrow margin. And to me it looks better than a lot of the newer mirrorless cameras. It's a little bit less digital and a little bit more, I don't know, filmic, whatever you want to call it. It's very rugged and reliable. I've had mine out in pouring rain, and it's just also really easy to use. And I think for especially like a simple camera setup that you just want to bring along, maybe you're traveling, maybe not, but maybe you just want something that's really simple. And I think this camera delivers on that. I've had a few different cinema cameras before, like the Blackmagic, and just having the option, at least, to not have it rigged out completely is really nice. If I want to bring basically just the camera and a mic and a lens, I can, especially with the IBIS. I don't always like to use it, but when I do, it's really nice to have it, and I think it gives really natural looking results. Okay, so let's talk about my simple setup. So like I said, I have the original S5, and then I just use a simple little L mount to EF adapter. I think it was like $12 or something, maybe 20. Not real expensive. And that allows me to use any manual EF mount lens. So I can't change the aperture, no autofocus. And 99% of the time I'm shooting, I'm using vintage lenses anyway. So that cheap adapter is great. And then all of my lenses have EF adapters. So I have my two favorites currently. I just got this I'm filming on right now, a Nikon AFD. I think it's basically an AIS 20mm 2.8, and that has an EF mount on the back. And then I also use a Pentax 50mm 1.7 fairly often, as well as a few others, but that's my kind of go-to two-lens kit. And then on the front of the lenses, I always keep a couple step-up rings, just cheap ones, usually 49 or 52 millimeters, whatever it is, up to 77. And that will allow me to use the same filters on the front of each lens, so that I don't have to buy multiple filters because they get pretty expensive. And then sometimes I use a Pro Mist. You can see right now it's not on, and there's not too much bloom around like my hair here with the highlights, but even if I just hold it up, you can kind of see the difference there. I don't know. It's good for some things. Sometimes it's a little bit much, but I do like to have it with me. And then on the end of the lens, pretty much all the time, I have a No-X circular, No-X variable ND filter. I think it's KNF. I don't know exactly. It was $60 or $70, I think. Some of them, they go up to like $300. I don't know how necessary that is, but just make sure you don't get the super, super cheap ones, or you're going to get like crazy dark corners, especially on wide lens. I usually use a Rode Video Micro. I've had this for, I think, 6 years. It's been smashed into my bag on countless dozens of times. It's marred up. There's like chunks missing from it practically. It's been very durable, but as you can tell, it still sounds really, really nice. I have one spare battery for the camera, and I found that the battery life on this thing is fantastic, and 2 is usually enough for a whole day, really. And I can always top it up from a little battery bank if I need to. I just got a Benro travel tripod. I don't know the model name, but I'll put a link for that and everything else in the description. It's really, really nice. It's pretty light, pretty small, and it gets tall enough that it's almost head height. I think carrying a tripod is not as common as it used to be with everybody's got a gimbal now, you know, but I think it's actually really powerful still to have a tripod. I think a lot of folks discredit that, and I would highly recommend getting, it doesn't have to be real fancy, but like just get one that works well enough for you, and you might find that you actually use it a lot more than you'd think. I use a 2020, I think it is, MacBook Air M1 with 16 gigs of RAM. You can find these for like $500 or $600 on eBay now. I think it's still honestly a great computer. I bought it when it first came out, and still runs perfectly. And the nice thing with this camera is that it's pretty small files and they're easy to edit. So I use obviously DaVinci Resolve. I have the studio version because I like to have the grain and all the more advanced tools, but you can definitely get by editing footage from this camera on a cheaper laptop. And same with the storage drives. I use the Samsung T7s, but honest, like a whole year, I think, worth of footage, maybe 2 even, could fit onto a single 2 terabyte hard drive. And then I keep everything in a simple Temba camera sling. Most times, sometimes, like I said, maybe I'm backpacking or maybe I'm traveling by bike or something and it's different, but just like if I just want something to kind of throw everything into a simple bag and toss in the car, I have this sling bag, which is kind of the perfect size, and I can even use it as basically a cine saddle, where I have it kind of slung over my shoulder, but then I rest the camera kind of like here at chest level to just basically to stabilize it, kind of like an easy rig. So I hope that's been helpful for some of you. Like I said, I get a lot of questions about how I set up this camera for use with vintage lenses. If you have any other questions, definitely leave a comment. I'll try to help out as best I can, maybe make some more future videos diving into the menu systems and the settings that I use to get the most cinematic video. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.